You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. And the conversation begins right now as we have the pleasure of welcoming our first guest to the show. He is seasoned journalist, highly recommended public affairs analyst, and as we speak, the Delta State Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information, Charles Aniagwu. Good morning. Honorable Charles.
Good morning, Steve.
Good to have you in the studio with us.
Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Charles.
Good morning.
How are you? You know,
I'm very much okay.
Yeah, very much okay.
It's nice to be in Lagos this beautiful morning.
You know why I'm smiling like this now?
I can see the weather is so lovely. Yeah, you'll be smiling because you know you are from Delta.
Correct.
And you know many things are happening in the right direction.
Well, you tell us.
Okay,
we don't know yet. You tell us.
We'll talk about it, Charles, from core information to a triple, how do we describe it now? You're now handling, works with rural roads and then public, information. So you basically be spending the bulk of the money for infrastructural development and then telling the public what you're using the money for. So let's start that way. It's almost halftime for the governor, who, by the way, has been winning awards here and there, all over the place for infrastructural development, for projects, etc. What really is the magic, if there is any, given the fact that you are in charge of works in Delta State? What will you point at now that we're almost at half a 2-year mark before we start counting down to another round of elections?
Well, thank you very much for this privilege. And before I proceed to the issues you raised, let me again appreciate the managers, editors, and all the staff of Arise and This Day for the very well-deserved award that was given to my boss, Right Honorable Sheriff Oborevwori, as a governor who has been able to show a whole lot of prudence in the management of resources and also able to embark on a number of infrastructure. And thank God also, we must also appreciate the editors of a New Telegraph, who have also recognized that in Delta we are experiencing a new dawn in terms of infrastructure development. And just about 2 nights ago, he was also given an award as the Governor of the Year Infrastructure. Now to the earlier part of your question as to how we are moving from, I was able to move between works and information. I must give all the glory to God Almighty and then appreciate the governor who have also found me worthy to be able to play a dual role in that regard. And by the grace of God, we are making progress. But as at the time he came in, he realized that there's so much work to be done. And so he was able to split the Ministry of Works into two. We have a department that's in charge of urban and highway, that's urban roads and highway, while I was saddled with the responsibility of looking at roads in our riverine communities and in our rural communities, so that we could move with the speed that we do desire. And that is helping in a very serious way for us to be able to effectively supervise the projects we are handling. The governor has not rested since he came in. Of course, you've heard about the bridges that are being built in the warrior houses, specifically in Udu, in Uwe, and Warisa local government area, being handled by Julius Berger. Those bridges are springing off as if you have applied some form of ammonia fertilizer. And so each day you go there, you see a new development. So that is happening. And all these, in addition to many other infrastructure across the 3 senatorial districts, are going on with a whole lot of commitment on the part of the governor and leading those of us who are his lieutenants to be able to supervise this project and ensure that there is value for money. So the governor even went ahead to set up a high-powered committee chaired by himself to monitor the projects, how they are proceeding, how the contractors are proceeding with work, to see that every contract is being executed according to specification, so that nobody at the end of the day should change the state. And so we are driving that, and all that are moving on. Now, in terms of how we're able to coordinate the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Information, I get a whole lot of support from His Excellency the Governor in terms of being able to listen to our views and at the same time make the resources available for us to be able to deliver. In addition to the fact that I have also a whole lot of a team, very capable team, both in the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Information. And so it's a teamwork approach. The moment you come to the table, you see a whole lot of persons, very capable hands. It's not just all about me. So these individuals assist in ensuring that we're able to bring up memos from projects that are to be done in the Ministry of Works, and at the same time, look at what's happening in other ministries using the platform of the Ministry of Information with a view to giving the public the right information on what's going on in our dear state.
All right. Well done, Charles. I mean, your governor, we awarded him Governor of the Year. This day at 30, awarded him. Like you've highlighted, he's been receiving awards because of his infrastructural projects and what he's been doing for Delta State and Deltans. Now, my question to you is, I'd like for you really to address that perceived misconception of your governor, because, you know, reports emerged before and during the election that, you know, he may not be able to handle Delta State affairs because he's not learned, and now we are hearing all of these awards, and obviously there's also reports that he hasn't even borrowed a dime since he got into power. I'd like for you to just sum up that and address that misconception. Really.
My Governor Oborevwori is that book that almost everybody judged by its cover. And by the time they attempted to open the book, they discovered that it's not written in French languages, but in pure English. And that all the facts that you need to know about certain things that you thought are not possibly available in that book are all put together in that book. Let me also confess that I was one of those who did not give him a fair judgment at the beginning, because sometimes we are carried away by a whole lot of other issues. Today, Oborevwori has proven a whole lot of people wrong in a number of respects. One of his greatest assets is the fact that he is underrated. Your chairman said that much even in the course of that award. Oborevwori's financial management abilities is almost second to none. And let me inform you that even as the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, because he was our Speaker for 6 years, at the end of his tenure as the Speaker of the Assembly, he returned 500 million naira to the state coffers. So when you look at the story of people who are usually either as politicians in at different levels, you will understand what that means. And we thought that was a flash in the pan, that maybe it was just one of those things. But we didn't know that that is his pure characteristics. When we say that Delta today is solvent, we are not solvent because we contacted a native doctor to help us preserve our funds. We are solvent because Oborevwori is demonstrating a whole lot of accountability and a whole lot of prudence in the management of our resources. Little wonder, if you may want to know, that last 2 weeks when we had our maiden exco for the year 2025, we approved projects worth over 275 billion naira. Yeah. Not only that we approved those projects, the governor was also magnanimous for us to proceed to also approve that each of the contracts will be given, as the contractors, will be given 40% mobilization. So which means you have 40% of the contract sum available to be given to you. And we have been doing that since he came in. And that is why you could see that the number of these projects are moving with speed. Beyond the issue of giving out these 40%, there are a number of our projects that are on ISPO, where in which case every month, certain amount of funds kicks in. The moment you present your certificate, in terms of milestones, the state pays. And so there are so many things that he has done in terms of taking on big projects, in terms of carrying the 3 senatorial districts, irrespective of ethnic differences. Of course, you know, Delta is a multi-ethnic state. Irrespective of even political affiliation, he is carrying everybody along. And that is why you see that even when the few pockets of opposition speaks to certain issues, Oborevwori doesn't waste time responding to those issues. He only concentrates more in the project as a means of response to those criticisms. And today, all we ask people is tell us your local government, and then we'll tell you what Oborevwori is doing. he was able to come up with a novel idea in our budgeting approach. And good enough, my ministry was saddled with that responsibility of implementing certain funds across the 25 local government areas. In 2024, we provided 1 billion for roads alone. That is specific intervention. That is not the only amount we provided, but for specific intervention so that even if you don't have a big man or you don't have anybody speaking for your local government, that fund is there that must be spent in your local government. Having seen the magic in terms of the level of infrastructure we're able to implement using that model, in the 2025 budget, he directed that over 2.1 billion will still be provided for the purpose of such intervention across the local government areas. It might interest you to note that even the ESCO we had about less than 2 weeks ago, we approved projects across more than 80% of the local governments in Delta in one ESCO. Covering, so anybody who wakes up and says they have not done, we don't even need to say, what are you talking? We say, please, can you tell us your local government? So that let us even know whether you are among those who doesn't visit home.
I visit home. Sheito, I know you are half Delta as well.
Yes,
they said, tell us your local government.
Which one is your local government?
Let me tell him my local government. So you can also say your local government. I'm Okwani local government.
In Okwani local government, we just approved the Amayaraba Orugun road, which is about 8 kilometers. And that road is going to cost us over 7 billion naira in terms of construction. Yes. That is linking the good people of Okwani, your local government, and their kids and kin in Ughelli North. That has been approved. We have also done Ofewe streets in I think in Amai. That has been done. That one we are proceeding now to talk about marking. Marking means that you have already concluded the construction. If you even also look at the road between Obiaroko, which is the headquarters of your local government, and proceeding to Abraka, the headquarters of Ethiop East, you could see that the old alignment of the federal highway has also been fixed. So all those things are being done for the purpose of allowing our people to commute with their kids and kin across the other local government areas. So you may tell me your own local government and tell what's happening there.
So I'm Shekiri Ajaitan.
Which of the local government? The Shekiris you can find them. Some of them in Saple. You can find some of them in Warri South. Yes. That is where you see them.
I'm getting
some in the diaspora. And then some in Warri North.
My dad just said to me, because that man has left this country almost 30 years now. But you know, honestly, I am.
But since you are talking about Shekiri, let me help you now. I've mentioned the local government.
We can do that one after behind off camera. But I really want to, I just listening to everything that you've said, even from the awards, everything that has been said about the Delta State governor just makes one really proud to be from the state. And there was something that you said, Oji mentioned about the fact that he has not borrowed a dime. A lot of Nigerian states rely heavily on borrowing to fund infrastructure projects. And you've definitely maintained, being able to live within your means. Now, given the scale of the infrastructure developments currently underway, can you elaborate on exactly how these projects are being, financed? Are there strategic partnerships with private investors? Are there donor agencies? Are we looking at public-private partnerships that help sustain these projects? Because, I wonder why we're not having a lot more, governors doing, the same thing that he's doing.
First of all, not only that Oborevwori is not borrowing, Oborevwori has paid over 240 billion in the last 20 months to service or defray existing contractual obligations, as well as some other funds that came in form of loan in the past. So for you to know that it's not only just funding infrastructure. Today, I'm not too sure you have heard of anybody going to the street to protest that they have not been paid pension or anything of such. He came in, and immediately he came in, the first thing he did was to pay over 5 billion naira to take care of existing promotion arrears. Accumulated promotion arrears. Of course, promotion arrears comes in if, for instance, you are promoted in January and you did not receive your promotion allowance up to maybe December. It means that for 1 year, the difference in what you were paying before you were promoted and now your new rank is pending. He cleared all that. Now you asked, how is he able to do it? Prudence. You needed to see how he looks at the funds of the state. he sees it as a personal fund that must be properly preserved for the good people of his children and with his family members. He cuts off a whole lot of things that could have led to wastages. I'll give you an example. About 24 hours before our last Thursday's ESCO, what did he do? He invited those of us who are, like you said, whose ministry are involved in the expenditure of most of these funds, and say, let us look at your memo again. I've given you approval, but I have an idea of what we could do. And we'll look at it, say, look, if we are giving somebody a project worth about 29 billion naira, if you say you have a profit margin that you usually present in any of your memo, a man who is going to carry out a project of 30 billion and a man who is going to carry out a project of 1.2 billion cannot be on the same threshold. Let us look at the people who will be carrying out the project of about 30 billion. Since we usually provide them 40%, we are first of all saving them the agony of cost of funds, should they have proceeded to go to any financial institution to source for such funds. In which case, if it is 20% profit, can we leave it at 15%? If they say they are not going to do it, then we'll look for another person that can do it, because number one, at 30 billion naira, and the fact that we're also providing you 40% of sort to execute that project, there's a whole lot of stress we have taken away from you. And do you know that when we looked at it from just about 5 different memos, we were able to minus 4.5 billion naira. Yet, the contractors were still very much interested in carrying out such projects without him killing anybody. Ditto a number of reviews that we are carrying out. Of course, you know there is a whole lot of change in the cost of items that were the projects that were awarded prior to May 2023 on account of the fall of the value of the naira. Of course, you know the reason why that happened, and the continuous fluctuation that have characterized the value of the naira in recent time, which of course, like I said, you can't go into a rotten mat and not find a teeth that is not healthy. So, because you have all those changes and the fluctuation, it's expected that cost of items, cost of contracts would have also gone up. So you proceed to review existing job. By the way, when he came in, he promised that he was going to continue on ongoing projects and, of course, initiate new ones. And he has kept faith with that particular promise. So in doing so, Oborevwori looks at everything bit by bit. You bring your memo, he sits down with you, he looks through the lines, and then he has now proceeded to set up the committee I talked about earlier, project monitoring, which he heads. We go and look at people's project, say, no, we can't take this, we can't take this. Contractor, this is your fault, we cannot review it for you, so you have to pay. In doing so, the fund that ordinarily you would have maybe paid to somebody is being preserved and conserved. So that is how he's able to, once money comes, he looks at where our mouth is for us to be able to direct our fingers and not to begin to look for the ear when you know that you want to get something that you need to swallow. So those are the approaches that he has brought in that is making us to stand very, very firm. Right. And I can assure you, even if we go to another ESCO tomorrow and approve projects that is also in excess of 275 billion like we did in the last ESCO, Oborevwori is ready to fund because he believes that data that is never known for taking the back seat will never carry last. I hope you know that data not the carry last. Data not the carry last.
All right, Charles. Let me come in with a barrage of questions, given the fact that you have been robust in promoting, Delta State.
No, in telling you what we are doing.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's promotion anyway. Okay, first thing, you said your first ESCO during the year and the things that you approved. And I'm wondering, is the Executive Council meeting in Delta State once a month, or you've not been that busy as to consider, Executive Council meetings important that we would, February is almost ending, but then you've had one, only one this year. That's first one. A second question would be to get your clarity on this idea of Oborevwori has not been borrowing and things like that. And I want to give you the figure, from the DMO's office. As at today, the debt, the domestic debt of Delta State has surged by 42.5 billion naira in just 3 months. And of course, the figures, are very clear about it. As at September 2024, the state's total domestic debt reached 342.5 billion naira. I get the point that you cleared a substantial amount, but as at September, it stands at 342.5 billion, up from 304 billion in June of 2024.
Yeah.
So when you say that you've not been borrowing, what really does that mean if your domestic debt is rising? And people are saying that given the surge in what you are getting, like all the other states, from federal allocation, why are you still borrowing domestically? And then the last question will be a political one. Opposition people are saying that PDP in Delta is depleting. And they are pointing fingers at people like, Ned Nwoko, who left for the ruling party APC. And there are talks even about the governor that maybe he's even having backdoor talks with the ruling APC party. Will he run for re-election in 2027 as a PDP member, or are there possibilities that he might jump ship?
Okay, let's start from your first question, which talks about why we had our first ESCO in February. We came into the year, before coming into the year, we had our budget approved. We were the first to sign our budget 2025 into law. And as soon as we came in, we needed to look at every part of our dear state. We were to hold the ESCO in January. When some of us, when we looked at the memo, don't forget that before you proceed to the ESCO, you must first of all make a number of those your projections available to the governor for him to also to be able to agree with you on what you are bringing to ESCO. Because he is the one who has a wide map of the entire state.
It checks the ESCO.
Yes, and to be able to also look at what are we bringing in. And so when some of us brought it, he said, no, this thing is not representative enough of our dear state. Our intention is to be able to cover very wide areas. And then when that happened, there were instructions. For instance, in the case of my ministry, by the time I proceeded to bring about projects that cuts across about 6 local government areas, I said, no, he wants it big. He wants to be able to, from beginning, because we want to take advantage of the dry season, because it's construction period, that we need to be able to put in a whole lot, since we'll be able to also have the funds to be able to deal with them. And then when you go back to now do what we call scoping. Scoping is be able to go and look at a road, take the measurement, and then put the cost that you need to be able to execute that road. That doesn't take 2 days. By the time we proceeded and we went back, the other ministries, like Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, that are also heavy in terms of their different projects, all those things were now considered. By the time we put all these things together, and we needed to go back and look at a number of the jobs that were existing that people that were waiting for review. Recall, I told you that the governor set up a high-powered inspection committee. He said, look, we don't need to just go to ESCO and approve funds and fritter them away. We need to that if we hold one ESCO, let it be ESCO that gives value to the people of Delta. So we went back, first of all, to look at those existing projects that were to review. The governor says he wants to see them. So that the individual, because in the course of time, he discovered that there were some reviews that did not speak directly to the amount of work on ground. For instance, if somebody has done 60% of job, you cannot go and review the entire project. That the only thing you need to review is the remaining 40%. And so, you cannot assume that everybody must be on the same table with you, whether civil servants, your police, even your aides, and a number of other contractors who may want to cut corners. Governor said, let us go and see first. Hold on with the ESCO. Once we see, so that once we come and we're taking a decision, we are taking a decision that gives value to the people, not just to play to the gallery. That speaks to the issue of why there was a delay in terms of ESCO. Now, your second question is to the issue of a rise in our domestic. Thank God you used the word domestic debt. Now, when you award a contract, for instance, I mentioned that we have awarded contracts in excess of 275 billion naira, and we are giving out as much as 40%. Now, the question is, what happened to the remaining 60% of that contractual obligation? Some of those ones fall into your debt list because the amount of project. When they say, for instance, that the Lagos is the most indebted state in Nigeria, you know what leads to that? Because of the amount of job that is being done. So we are carrying out a whole lot of projects that will certainly, at the initial stage, show up your debt profile, because for each one that you agree and you go into agreement, it becomes, once you agree that you are going to pay a certain amount for a particular job, automatically it falls into, you are taking a responsibility until that job is completed and you exit it by paying the final certificate. And even after you have paid the final certificate, there's what they call retention. That is left behind for a period of 2 years to see whether that particular, in the case of roads, all those ones happen. We have not, I repeat, gone to any financial institution, whether in this country or outside this country, to ask for a penny, not to talk of 1 naira. We have not. And if I told you that we are now paying as much as 40% for contract mobilization, you know what that means, that it speaks to the fact that we are quite solvent. But beyond that, we are not at the moment, owing any certificate. Go and ask any contractor in Delta. Certificate means that once you execute a job to a certain level, you come up with a certificate that speaks to the milestones you may have achieved in the course of executing that project. For instance, if they say go and provide TV, go and provide a laptop, go and provide table, but you may not have all the money to provide all of them at once, but you are able to provide the TV and the laptop. You bring your certificate, say, look, I have been able to provide this, but you have not provided the table. The government pays you the money for the laptop and the TV to enable you now proceed to provide the table. So each time these certificates come up, Oborevwori pays. And now the last one, you talked about depleting. I don't know what that means. You know that, number one, there's usually, for those who understand the game of football, there's a period we call transfer season. Very soon, the UEFA Champions League that Liverpool is leading very comfortably now will be over. Once it's over, what happens? You see a transfer window. People want to leave Real Madrid and they want to move to Liverpool. The election is coming. There are those who possibly have seen that they have performed below expectation, and that the club where they are may not even give them any of the wings to play. So when they leave, they are leaving so that the shame of failure in the club will not be noticeable.
All right.
And so for us in Delta, we are not disturbed. Like I said, Oborevwori's concentration at the moment is governance. And that is what we are doing. Those who are playing politics may be idle enough to play, but we are involved in governance.
Overtures to the governor, since it's transfer season now, there are overtures from bigger clubs.
It is natural that
the only big club.
It is natural that this governor is a star player.
Okay. All right, we don't have much time. I wanted to just quickly wrap up with the human capital development and what you guys have been doing for the people of Deltans. I mean, people will argue that you guys received the biggest PAC allocation. I believe.
But why don't they talk about the fact that we're also number one in terms of contributing to the federal post? Delta gives the highest money to Nigeria. Yes. I hope you know that.
All right.
And you people, when you are speaking English, you say to whom much is given.
Much is.
Yes, we give more than any other state to the federation called Nigeria.
Okay.
And when from the much we have given, you just give us back a little.
Right.
And individuals will say,
483 billion is a little, no problem. But go ahead quickly with your human capital.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot we are doing. Oborevwori is not only dealing with the hardware, in terms of what you may call the bricks and mortar. You talk about bridges, you talk about roads, you talk about the school buildings, you talk about court buildings, you talk about health centers. Oborevwori is also looking at the software, the human capital. We have what we call a D-Cares program.
Yes.
That D means data, data cares. And so through that program that is being anchored by the Ministry of Economic Planning, over 250 Deltans have been able to receive grants, not loans.
Fantastic.
We also have what we call the Office of the Job Creation Officer, where we have been able to bring on board what we call now more BISOPs. Of course, more is the acronym for the governor's agenda. BISOP means the business going up with an arrow pointing up. Yeah. That individual that belongs to what we call the brown. The brown means those who have one business or the other, or one skill or the other before now. We bring them in, give them some level of a brush up in terms of their knowledge, and then provide them funds to be able to take up their business to the next level. We also have program for widows. We also have program for women, which we call the WISAP, for the purpose of getting these individuals to have starter packs. All those things are going on alongside these many projects we are talking about.
Fantastic, Charles. Well, we'd like to thank you and thank the Governor Oborevwori, for everything he's doing, especially for our women.
Oji, when are you coming back home again?
That's the only reason.
You need to come back.
I'll come back this December.
We really have to go.
You have to leave Steve here. Charles, come back home.
I'm always home, Charles.
By the way, we'll be ready to give you citizenship.
I've been asking for chieftain, actually. Rufai has been asking for
the key to the city of Asaba. That won't be bad. I mean, you speak very well for your state, and I congratulate you.
Yes.
But many of our viewers are saying that Agbara has no electricity for months or years, and that there are many state-owned hospitals without water, without drugs.
And also
at the moment, we are working on 155 health centers.
Please, also Kwale, thank you for raising that comment. Kwale, very, very important. 10 years, some communities in that area have not received electricity.
Right.
I am raising that.
But very
just for you to deal with them.
But on the issue of electricity, I'm sure you can almost like answer it.
Right.
Because it has been fully privatized, there is little that government can do. What we used to do once before now is that we could provide transformers, give to them, and then it becomes a... But if in a community, you know what's happening with the issue of power generation as well as power transmission and distribution.
All right.
So there is a whole lot that can be done, but we have taken a note of the issues you have raised.
10 years, no electricity in Kwale, please. Take note.
That's
thank
where
you
you're
very
from,
much.
right?
That's where my mother is from.
Okay.
Well, all right.
All right, Charles Aniagwu, we want to thank you, Delta
you,
State Commissioner for
Thank you very much.
Works
Appreciate
and
it.
you, my
Public
sister,
Communications.
Thank you,
Please
sir.
just do and come back home. Audrey.
I'm always home.
All right.
You know that.
It's time now for a short break. When we return, we shall be ready to engage our second guest on the show, Dele Oye, President of National Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, and of course the chairman, the Organized Private Sector of Nigeria. Do join us again.